What is up, guys? Welcome back. Today we are going to be replacing the tie rod ends on my Mazda B2000. Now one of my sides is really bad and torn up, so I'm going to be replacing that one. The other side is not too bad, but if you wanted to do both sides, this is how you would do it. Let's jump right into it. So first things first, obviously get your truck up in the air nice and secure, take the wheels off, and then once you have all that done, we are going to have access here to the tie rod ends. And here I'm on my passenger side, and look at this. You can tell that is in bad need of replacement. It's been torn up, making noise, no grease in there for a little bit, so we do have to replace that. Now usually I recommend that if you're going to replace suspension things, since you do have to go get an alignment after you replace this stuff, the best thing to do is to replace all of it at the same time. But I came in here and looked at all my pieces, and honestly it's just my tie rod end that is messed up, so I'm just going to replace that today. I'm gonna write in the description parts to everything I'm using today, so check it out if you guys need to pick some up. And I'm gonna show you here what I have to replace this one. Now here are the parts I'm using. Now initially I thought I needed to replace both sides, but after taking a closer look at my driver's side, that side looks pretty much brand new, so I don't think I'm gonna replace it. But either way, I have all my parts here just in case I decide to do it once I get started. And we are gonna need the outer tie rod end, the inner tie rod end, and this thing's called the tie rod sleeves. That's basically what connects both of these pieces into each other, and they need to be adjusted and put into the truck. Now the one I take off, I'm gonna leave it exactly how it is, and then I'm gonna try to match my new one to that same distance, so that way hopefully when I put it back together, my alignment is not gonna be all out of whack. Even though it is very strongly recommended that you go get an alignment right after replacing anything suspension wise, especially on the front. The rear is a little bit more forgiving, but the front you should definitely go get an alignment after replacing anything. So we are getting ready now to remove this tie rod end that is messed up on my truck. And I did get a couple tools here to make this easier. I went to AutoZone and got a tie rod separator tool. That's the only tool I didn't have with me. But then besides that, we are gonna need a hammer, some needle nose pliers, some sockets. I believe this is going to be a 17 millimeter for that nut that we need to use, but I'll confirm once we get that cotter pin off. And then I did get also a breaker bar and my power tool in case I need either of them to make this easier. So we are about to remove the pin that is in here on that castle nut. You can kind of see it there. So we need to remove that first. Okay, so we gotten this one loose now. As you can see here, it's kind of coming off. One tip with this, if you are using the fork kind of like me, be careful where you position it. Basically, you have to kind of hit it kind of like this way. I had to bend the brake shield just a little bit this way, just so the forks could go straight that way. Because if you have a bit of an angle, this section here, the metal will start touching the fork and it won't let you like kind of go that way. And if you try to do it like straight ahead too, I think the metal is too wide on the back part, so then this part ends up being also kind of hitting it. So again, you have to just kind of go this way and try to clear as much of that little metal piece that's on this side. But yeah, that one is loose. But before I fully remove it from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to the back part over here. And let me see if I can get a good angle here. Move into this one. And then same thing, take the cotter pin off, loosen the castle nut on it, and not fully remove it, and then hit it with the forks. And I think with the forks here, we're gonna have to hit it from this way, just going straight that way to hopefully loosen it and take this whole thing as one piece, because again, I wanna put my new ones about the same length. So hopefully I don't have a terrible alignment once I'm done here. And there we have it, guys. The piece is completely out now, and here we are looking at it. That is the whole thing in just one solid piece. That way I can try to match my new one exactly into the same length of this, so hopefully we don't have a misalignment. Okay guys, and real quick here, I'm going to start building my new one. I went with the SKP for the outer and the inner tie rod ends, and then I went with this Ultra Power for the tie rod sleeve. And I'll put the part numbers on the description so you guys can find them there, but here they are as well. So we are now going to take everything out of the packaging, and we're going to try to match it up basically to the same length as this tie rod, and so that way we can put it back in there. So here we have it, guys. We put the new one all in as close as we can to the same length as this one. I try to match the kind of inner parts of them and then looking at the outside as well. So it might not be perfect, obviously. Obviously, this might be a different brand as well. So there could be a slight differences in length when it comes to the tie rods themselves. So keep that in mind. But I think this way we are as close as we can to this one. So when we put it in there, we shouldn't have some crazy alignment once we set the truck down in the ground. So let's move on back to the truck so we can put this in place. So we are back over here on the truck and we are ready to put our new tie rod ends in place. Now, one thing I want to make sure you pay attention to is you see this one that has this little kind of U shape into it. This is your inner tie rod. This is what's connected to your steering bar, if that's what you want to call it. And then this is the one that's connected to the actual spindle. So make sure you put in that right, you know, whatever side you're working on, make sure you're not mixing those up. Now, I did tighten up this to try to keep it at the length that it was, but just looking at it right here, I know it's gonna need a little bit of adjustment just because this one needs to go down and this one needs to be facing just a little bit higher up, I think. So I will have to adjust it, but I'm gonna put it in place first just to see how it looks, and then we'll adjust it from there. The kit did come with new cotter pins. One thing I want to also gotta call attention to, the outer one only came with a cotter pin, and you have your castle nut here, your new one, so that's good. It did not come with this little nut here, but the inner tie rod did come with an extra one, I guess, in case you need to replace that whole thing and you were not replacing the sleeves, you would have a nut here. So that was interesting. Just one thing to keep in mind. All right, so we have our tie rod back in place. And I definitely tried not to move this at all, but I do think it might need a slight adjustment because I felt like it did push it out a little bit, a tiny bit. So, but we are about to torque the actual ends here, and it is between 33 to 43 according to our book here. Any 86 model and later is going to be between 33 to 43 foot-pounds. So we're about to torque both ends of it, and then we are going to slightly adjust it just so it doesn't push this wheel out. All right, guys, so we have torqued our bolts on both sides here. We also came in and put our cotter pins in here to make sure we have our castle nuts nice and secure. So we are basically done with this. All we need to do now is put the wheel back on, and if everything looks good, maybe ride around like that for a little bit, see if the truck feels out of alignment. But again, I always recommend if you're gonna mess with anything with suspension wise, go get an alignment once you're done. That way your truck's gonna be nice and set up and you're not gonna be ruining your tires, driving out of whack, or ruining any other components that you just replaced. So there you have it, guys. We are basically done here with the passenger side. Now we can just go to the driver's side and repeat that same process and you'll be all done. Check your alignment, check your wear. Just make sure you're not running around like that too long. You know, a day or two if you need to is fine, but really go get an alignment. I really recommend you do that after you switch anything suspension wise. But yeah, that's all I have for today. So thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more Mazda videos or other mini truck videos, check out the channel. You'll find a lot more content, a lot of other stuff on these trucks and other things that I'm doing. So hopefully you like it, and hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Bye.